Governments deny it. Militaries deny it. Even the mainstream media denies it. But they are here, and they've been here for a very long time. The Mutual UFO Network has been on the front lines uncovering the truth since 1969, and now we're sharing that truth with you. Welcome to MUFON What's Up with your hosts, Katie Page, Christopher DePerno, and Tara Diulis, exclusively on the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Wondering what's up? So are we.
What's up? It is another Tuesday night. This week has gone by so fast. I need about 2 extra weeks processing all these Contact in the Desert tickets. So give me another month. It's going to be an amazing event. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a fantastic start to your week. You are listening to MUFON What's Up Radio, the show that says discovery starts with curiosity and curiosity starts with MUFON. Brought to you by kgradb.com. I hope you go to their website and check out all their great content. As always, we are endorsed by MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, asking that all-important question, are we alone in the universe? I am so super excited about tonight's guest. I was watching Gaia TV and watched Debbie Solaris on there. She's local here in Colorado. I'm like, oh man, we're both in the same state. I really need to meet her. I'm so excited to talk to her and get to know her better. As always, I want to just share a few events. We missed you out at that Pikes Peak Paranormal Conference. We had the state director out there, Mindy Telfast, Jeremy. We were all hanging out, had a great time out there in Cripple Creek. If you didn't make it this year, I hope to see you out there next year. It was a really fun event, but we got more coming up. We hope to see you out. We have Contact in the Desert coming up really fast, like I just talked about, June 2nd through the 4th. So I hope to see you out there in Indian Wells, California. We have the Roswell Fest coming June 30th to July 2nd, right before the 4th of July. And right now, actually, yeah, if you could put that back up, there's like this $40 deal. You can find this at ufofestival.com. And you can get this really great package deal, T-shirts and all this great stuff. It's really not all that expensive to get that deal. So I hope you go check that out. And last but not least, we have that all-important MUFON Symposium coming up August 24th through the 27th. And on that Thursday is that FI training on the 24th. Always a fantastic day. So many things to do this summer, this spring and summer. So hope to see you guys out at some of those wonderful events. Let's go ahead and bring in our co-host. We have Tara Diulis. You can see Tara right here on KGRA on Sky Tour Live with Mark D'Antonio. How you doing, Tara?
Hi, Katie. What's up?
I love your earrings. Those are great.
Aren't those awesome? I just won those at the Phoenix MUFON meeting in the raffle this past weekend. So, yay!
You should go buy some lottery tickets too. You
I know.
Have a little lucky streak going. Was Michael Masters there, right? I think
he was. Dr. Masters was there, and what an interesting conversation he had. I loved his
he's amazing.
Yeah, very cool guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, great.
Yeah.
Let's bring in Chris DePerno. He is the state director for New York and on the ART, and Jerry and Jenna.
Oh, Jerry and Jenna are not here tonight. They took a day off. They'll be back next week, of course. Hey, Tara, I love your T-shirt.
It's vacation.
Well, listen, he's not my kid, so I don't have to worry about him. Okay? As a matter of fact, I'm going to put him up for
on vacation. Taking the day off. On vacation. Taking the day off.
Hell with it. He's going to move
I want that job.
Hey, Tara, I love your T-shirt. It reminds me of the 70s, you know, the peace, love, and is that a tooth? So it's peace, love, and a tooth?
Peace, love, and braces, baby.
Oh, okay.
I'm celebrating.
I don't remember that in the 70s. I remember the peace, love, and marijuana, but I don't remember the peace, love,
child
and
of the 60s, I have to say. So I'm always into
for
peace
you.
and love.
Yep, all right. We need a little more of that in the world.
Especially love.
Oh, wait, that's Nixon.
I love.
I am not a crook.
One piece. Just one piece.
I remember that.
That's funny. Tara, what do you have to kick us off tonight?
Oh, well, hey, I wonder if you guys, we're always looking up at UFOs. Are you ever wondering what they might be imagining as they're looking down at us? Well, today's meme shows just that. This vintage meme from the 60s, honestly, shows a scenic countryside with a UFO flying overhead, right? But the two aliens inside, and one is saying to the other, amazing, you'd swear there were villages, farms, and roads down there. but actually it's nothing but marsh gas. So we call them marsh gas, and that's what they're calling us, I guess. So
I like the little pointy noses on
I was gonna say I like the little and the classic antennae. The antennae.
That's funny. The antennae.
Antennas.
Really fun, really fun. Well, it's been over 100 degrees in Phoenix a couple days already, so summer is here. And so it makes me think of breaking out my UFO flip-flops. You're going to be going to the pool and stuff. So what I have for you today are some slides and flip-flops that can be found
those
on
are fun.
Etsy, of course. Aren't there fun? Some little dancing aliens. And then these are really fun. It's not your eyes. They're 3D slides. And here we have dancing aliens, and all of these you can find in different colors and sizes. Here we have some
those are kind of cool.
Freaky alien heads. I know they're kind of awesome. And then we have some UFOs with the rainbow beams. Nice. And yes, and here are some fun little purple alien heads and some space alien slides. And for those of you who may believe that they are indeed aliens, here's some octopus slides.
Huh?
They say octopus. You never know where they came from. Here's
some of those deep sea creatures. I'm telling you, they are aliens.
Slides. That's the impression of the Roswell rock on there.
Okay.
And yeah, isn't that fun? And here's some green hip aliens. And these and lots of other cool flip-flops and shoes can, of course, be found on Etsy. So I'm going to put my flip-flops on, go by the pool, and sit and eat my yummy salted caramel chocolate Sasquatch sandwich. And where is this from? Our friends at paranormalpops.com, where you can find all fun edible things.
Is that a chocolate bar, Tara?
It is. It's a chocolate sandwich bar, and it's chocolate with salted caramel on top and chocolate sprinkles.
Well, the flip-flops makes me think of ice cream sandwiches. So maybe they should design some ice cream treats. Although you couldn't ship those, could you? They'd melt. I don't know how that works.
Well, you might be able to dry ice around. You never know. Well, in the meantime, just a reminder to stay hydrated in this heat and make sure everybody fuels up. And fuel up, put it in your daily routine. Wake has caffeine with no jitters or crash, and play is for all day. I got them backwards there, I guess. And there's rest for evening. And it's vegan friendly, keto friendly, no soy, gluten, or GMOs. So you can visit fuelup.gg/MUFON for special deals. And stay hydrated, everyone, and stay safe this summer. The heat's on. So
yeah, it almost got to 65 here in Buffalo.
Oh my God.
I know. I think we're at like 50 today.
We all had to put on shorts today.
Oh my God. The cooler's been on for quite a while around here, I'll tell you that. So, well, Chris.
I don't know how you do it, Tara. I really don't.
I love the heat.
Girl.
I don't know how you guys handle the snow, to be honest.
I'll send you some
saw my
year.
Facebook post. I was like digging out just like a week and a half ago.
My
power was out for 2 days. I had like 3 feet of snow on my upper deck. It was crazy. We get these big snows in the spring, and you're out there with your flip-flops and your props.
Hanging out by the pool and water, staying cool. So speaking of cool, Chris, what's up? What do you have for us today?
Let's see what we got in the news. Well, first of all, I want to. Last week I did a story about what Tucker Carlson had said, and I did some research on that. And the person I think he was referring to is, of course, Gary Nolan. And Gary Nolan says that he has investigated government people over 100, and out of those 100 people, all of them had injuries from encounters with UFOs. He wasn't specific when he said they were actually alien creatures or the crafts themselves, but he did say that there was over 100 people that were have white spots on the brain, similar, not exactly, but similar to Havana syndrome or MS. But here's the thing that he said. Over 20% of those people have died because of their injuries.
Wow.
That's scary.
So I wanted to make sure that story was accurate, and it seems to be 95% accurate.
So it's not like the ETs intentionally doing this. It's just sort of the
there's
side
nothing that
effects
says that they're doing it intentionally, but I mean, there's a lot of things that can hurt us that is not intentional. And whether it's their electromagnetic propulsion or whatever propulsion system they're using, plasma, whatever, or acoustic waves, microwaves, whatever type of frequency that they're using, there's a good chance this may be harmful, unintentionally maybe, but still it's still harmful. So I wanted to make sure that story was accurate. All right, let's get with the news. This is a good
Buckle
one.
up.
Suspected meteorite crashes through the roof of a New Jersey home. I love this.
Ooh,
Authorities in New Jersey are investigating an odd incident wherein what is believed to be a meteorite smashed into a resident and left a sizable hole in the roof. I can't wait for the insurance company to take a look at this. The weird case reportedly came to light on Monday afternoon when Susie Kopp returned to her home in the community of Hopewell Township and discovered significant damage in her upstairs bedroom. Surveying the scene, she initially suspected that someone had pelted the house with a rock, but soon determined that something far weirder had occurred. We are thinking it's a meteorite. She explained that it plunged through the roof and ricocheted around the room until it finally rested on the floor. Now, if you see one of the pictures, that thing did go through the roof of her house and into their bedroom. So I gotta say, what a way to wake up! You don't need an alarm. You just need a meteorite to come in and you wake up. She explained that it plunged through the roof and ricocheted around, blah blah blah, which is what Kopp found is sitting amidst the debris. Now, to that end, Kopp noted that emergency workers called to handle the matter were somewhat unsettled when they arrived at the scene. They were afraid that it fell because from the sky, was it radioactive? Could it have been some type of residue on us? She recalled. So they scanned everything and everything came back clear. Kopp went on to muse the family fortunate that no one was home at the time of the suspected meteorite strike. Can you imagine sitting there eating your TV dinner? Remember those TV dinners, Tara?
Yes, I do.
Watching television and a meteorite come through your door. Man, that's a great one. And so we weren't hurt or anything, though the possibility to be connected to an ongoing Aquarius Latias meteor. I have no clue what that is, but it's some kind of meteor shower. So let's just say meteor shower. And area partners marveled that it was for actually strike a house for people to be able to pick up. That's really unusual and has happened very few times in history. I can't remember any time that a meteor actually went through a house, but maybe it has. Tara, would you roll that first video?
Okay, here we go.
It was an out-of-this-world surprise at a Mercer County home today when something from space crashed right through the roof. A metallic object believed to be a meteorite hit the house in Hopewell Township. Everybody is talking about this close encounter tonight. CBS News Philadelphia reporter Carrie Corrado spoke with a family who was inside the home.
The family says the call to the non-emergency line was an interesting one as they tried to explain that something fell from the sky. They say they are grateful no one was injured, and now they're left with a gift from space.
It appears whatever came from the sky fell through the roof, this top left window. This is my dad's bedroom.
Susie Kopp says she found this hole in her father's home on Old Washington crossing Pennington Road in Hopewell Township. At first, she says she thought someone threw a rock until she realized it was more than that.
We're thinking it's a meteorite. Came through here, hit the floor here because that's completely damaged. It ricocheted up to this part of the ceiling, and then finally coming down and resting just on the floor there.
Kopp says no one was home at the time. As she stepped around the debris and sheetrock, she found this 4x6 metallic rock in the corner.
I did touch the thing because I just thought it was a random rock, I don't know, and it was warm.
Derek Pitts, chief astronomer at the Franklin Institute, says it could be 4 to 5 billion years old, left over from the beginning of the solar system.
It's been running around in space all that time, and now it's come to Earth, and it fell right into their laps. But for it to actually strike a house, for people to be able to pick up, that's really unusual. It has happened very few times in history.
Kopp says emergency responders came and checked on her and her family.
They were afraid that, because if it fell from the sky, was it radioactive? Could we have any type of residue on us? They did scan us. Everything came back clear.
While this was a bizarre experience,
I just thank God that my father was not here. No one was here. you know, we weren't hurt or anything.
Investigators say this may be related to the current meteor shower. The family says they may buy a lottery ticket after this experience. Carrie Corrado, CBS News, Philadelphia.
Lottery ticket.
I don't know why you want
Another one.
I would think that was bad luck having a meteorite hit your house.
Do you know how much money that is worth? That's worth a lot of money right there.
That's pretty.
Even the
got
small
the
ones
scale
are.
of it. Mm-hmm. That was a big one.
Well, maybe they'll sell it. I don't know.
I can't believe it ricocheted. Like
I
came
certainly hope
down.
they get enough money to fix the roof of their house and everything, because the insurance company's gonna love that one and stuff. All right, let's get on to the second story.
All right.
Alien body allegedly found in Bolivia. Everything is found in Bolivia. A bizarre video from a village in Bolivia purportedly shows an alien body that was allegedly found following a UFO sighting. The very weird case reportedly began earlier this month in a remote community of Hungary. What do you mean, come on?
It's an octopus.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. Who cares? Anyway, the first spotted this mysterious green light in the sky found the particular sighting that claimed that a diminutive humanoids, which some likened to goblins that were scrambling. See, goblins, you make fun. It's an octopus. It's not. It's a goblin. Get your story straight. Which some likened to goblins were scrambling through the streets of the village. They were miniature beings. One witness recalled, like those little people who appeared to children. The little people. A few days later, the odd incident became even stranger when what appeared to be a body of a small figure was found in a gutter. He was drunk, as one resident marveled.
Oh, wow.
The closer we got, we saw that it was an alien. He went on a bender, an earth bender. We do it all the time. Fortunately for those who find the fantastic tale hard to fathom, some people at the scene managed to actually capture photos and footage. See above. I don't know where there's above, but curious remains, which seem to resemble a miniature version of an iconic gray alien, complete with oversized eyes. Images of an autonomous figure were subsequently sent to the Bolivian ufologist Juan Carlos, who noted that they appeared to show this being curled up, but these little bones. Although he has pledged to investigate this case, the UFO researcher laminated, that it was being something of a challenge as a bit. Look, if it's an alien, it's an alien. If it's something else, it's something else. As the particular remains mysteriously disappeared shortly after being discovered. How about that, folks? What became of the suspected alien body is uncertain, when some speculating that the remains were retrieved by its ET companions, while others have theorized that a well-meaning villager may have given the otherworldly visitor a proper burial, suggesting that the officials in Bolivia are taking the case seriously. Authorities are said to be investigating the situation and are asking residents to refrain from discussing the matter. Yeah, you find a dead alien and you don't talk about it. Of course, skeptical observers will argue that the dead alien is merely a well-crafted hoax on the part of someone who is likely never expected it to wind up making headlines around the world. With that in mind, will you make the strange remains found in this alien? Are they going to find it? All right, Tara, roll it. And I will warn everybody, this video is not in English, but it's the best one I could find.
Okay.
Bueno, y hay conmoción en un barrio donde los vecinos juran haber hallado el cadáver de un extraterrestre. Bueno, la noticia corrió como la pólvora y un investigador del fenómeno ovni llegó hasta el lugar. Y lo que dijo dejó a todos con la boca abierta. Vamos a dejar que Bernabé López nos cuente más desde Bolivia.
Esta imagen parece de otro mundo. Campesinos del pueblo de Guarina encontraron el cadáver de lo que aseguran es una criatura nunca antes vista.
Esos seres es alien. Eso, pues. Mientras más nos acercábamos hemos visto, pues, alien siempre era.
En esta calle y sin vida estaba lo que parece ser el cuerpo con extremidades humanoides de un ser extraño. Por eso pensaron había que enviarlo a un experto.
Él me mandó fotos de lo que está este ser, que está ahí como acurrucado, pero son huesitos que están ahí. Y entonces y me dice que los pobladores saben de esto.
Es que días antes, los habitantes lograron grabar supuestas naves en la noche y vieron pequeñas sombras en sus calles que comparan con duendes.
Que hay seres en miniatura, o ¿qué han dicho? Esas cositas, personitas que aparecen a los niños.
Lo extraño del caso y un misterio sin resolver es que el cuerpo del supuesto alien desapareció.
Eso no ha habido forma de poder indagar con más detalles, pero sí nos haría notar de que si es que ha fallecido esa criatura, tal vez haya un pequeño cementerio de estos seres.
Pero después de un tiempo hemos dicho, a ver, volveremos por la curiosidad, pues, y hemos vuelto nada, vea.
Las autoridades del pueblo prefieren no referirse al hecho, consultado el director de Turismo y Bienestar. Pero muchos de sus habitantes, tras esta experiencia, creen en la existencia de vida en otros planetas.
Yo creo que sí debe existir. Tampoco por el visto, no sé, digo, ¿no?
Desde el suceso, muchos de los habitantes de este barrio temen pasar por esta calle. Creen que más seres podrían aparecer por estos lugares. Desde el altiplano boliviano, Bernabé López, Telemundo.
Muchísimas gracias, Bernabé, pero fíjese que, sin embargo, después de todo esto, les cuento que las autoridades del pueblo, aunque ellos no creen en seres del espacio, sostienen que si alguien sabe del paradero del supuesto cuerpo extraterrestre, que lo reporten.
It looks like a different one. The first image, it looked like it had teeth, and now it's different images.
I don't know why the alien is smiling. If he's dead there, he's got a smile on his face, so I don't know. I don't know what the Bolivians are up to or what they're smoking nowadays, but I can tell you that probably not an alien. You know.
Well,
so
we're back to peace.
Yeah, I think they got some good ganji down there and stuff like that. Hey, let's hear it for Telemundo and their fantastic reporting.
It is
all
interesting.
right. Well, that's
Did you catch up with Bob? Did you catch up with
Bob?
Bob?
Actually, that's a good story. Bob actually has a great story this week.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. This is Bob Spearing. I'm MUFON's Director of International Investigations, and each week Chris, Tara, and Katie invite me on to do a short segment of something that was of interest recently. This week we had a case from 2022, November of 2022. It was reported, but it actually took place in 2006. What interested me about the case was the description of the witness recounting something that was flying alongside of his truck and that was subsequently chased by fighter jets out of Cannon Air Force Base. He was about 8 miles out from that base at the time. It was a great case. I contacted the field investigator Mike Loveland, who was able to get some drawings for me from this witness, and I was quite impressed with what the witness sent. So if we can put up the first slide. It's a truck driver. He was driving a semi. He's heading towards St. Vrain. Cannon Air Force Base is about 5 or 6 miles behind him. To his left, a large disc pulled alongside and was going low over some railroad tracks in the same direction as his vehicle. And he went on to describe what the vehicle that was tailing him looked like, as well as the occupants that were inside. So if we could go to the second slide, this is a close-up of the window on the disc, and he felt that there was a bluish and a pinkish tint to it, and that the window was sort of a cone-shaped, pointy at one end, widening at the other. In the vehicle, he saw 2 occupants. Very close up was a humanoid, and sitting further away was what he perceived to be a smaller gray. Let's look at the next slide. This is the fellow that was flying right alongside him. Now, what's interesting about this is that we get many reports of tall, blonde-haired Nordics. This is a typical-looking Nordic with the light hair, nice hairdo, wearing the traditional light blue jumpsuit that the Nordics usually wear. He did say that the Nordic type humanoid here was blue-skinned. But he also mentioned in his report that the window was tinted bluish pink. So perhaps it was somebody with a normal colored, say Caucasian skin, but was tinted blue through the windshield. Where it gets really interesting is what happens next. 2 fighter jets come out of cannon and begin chasing the object, and it flies away. Let's look at the last slide. As you can see, 2 jets went after it. He watches this whole thing play out in front of him as he's moving towards this very small town, St. Vrain. The UFO doesn't bear off to the left in front of him. It simply makes a sharp 90-degree left turn, and the jets cannot compensate for the object making such an abrupt otherworldly turn, and they give up the chase. 1 jet attempted to go around and try to catch up with it, and the other one was called off. It was gone in a second. I find this a very, very interesting case by a truck driver, and because it happened so close to Cannon, we have to suspect that this vehicle, whatever it was doing some sort of surveillance on Cannon Air Force Base, and that it was perceived as a threat, and jets were sent out to try to intercept it. So that's it for today. I'd like to thank Chris and the gang for having me on, and hopefully I'll get another chance to present something to you guys next week. Thank you.
Bob is in tropical mode. His shirt there, looking good, Bob.
Yeah.
That is a really interesting case.
Yes.
And we have the perfect guest to kind of ask about that too.
Yeah, I just want to mention that whatever species that was, they're still in the Elvis mode with that haircut.
Little.
So, yeah, you know, the flip back or whatever.
Pompadour or whatever. I'm not
Pompadour,
sure.
the 50s, 60s look. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Hey.
Well, I think it's a great time to bring in our special guest. So let me go ahead and read Debbie's bio here. Debbie Solaris is an ET contactee, interdimensional traveler, and galactic historian. After a fateful extraterrestrial contact experience a few years ago, Debbie awakened to her true star lineage and her higher calling. Through her ancestral connection with the Akashic Records, she has been receiving downloads of galactic historical information and universal spiritual knowledge ever since. She feels that it's a big part of her mission while here on Earth to help awaken others to their own true divine selves and cosmic origins. She is also a certified Akashic Records reader and gifted intuitive, using information channeled from her Arcturian and Palladian guides to heal and assist others on their own spiritual journeys. Debbie was recently featured on the Beyond Belief show with George Norrie and on Open Minds with Regina Meredith on Gaia TV Conscious Media, which showcased her extraterrestrial contact experience and remembrance of ancient galactic history and how that led her to her higher mission of helping all of us to remember and reconnect with our cosmic and star heritage. Using a unique and expansive perspective, Debbie offers visually appealing multimedia-rich classes, webinars, and presentations on extraterrestrial life and culture, galactic history, and ancient civilizations, as well as star seed and light worker enrichment workshops. Please welcome to the show, Debbie Solaris. Debbie, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, everybody.
Debbie.
It's great to be here.
Debbie.
I know that you're super busy. I went on your website because after I saw your show on Gaia, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get a reading with her. And you're like booked out for quite a while. So you
I am booked out, but we'll get you on, Katie, someplace. We'll squeeze you in.
Squeeze me in there.
Squeeze you in some little spot. But yeah, I am really booked out for readings. That's insane. Especially after the Gaia appearances. It just seems like everybody on the planet wants to have a reading with me. But it's just,
it's such an important thing that you're doing. I mean, you know, I really want to start. Like, what did you do before this? Kind of walk us through, and how did this happen? And I'm so curious. How this started.
It's quite the story.
So
it's quite the transformational story, but. Well, I don't know. It's not very glamorous, but when I was before I was awakened, I had worked several years for the local health department in Colorado Springs. That's actually my hometown, Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I was a health inspector. I used to inspect restaurants, pools, hotels, daycares, all that kind of stuff. And I had a very ordinary life. I didn't necessarily believe in extraterrestrials or had any kind of spiritual background besides being raised Roman Catholic. So I was your typical unawakened 3D human. And I started dating my now husband, Terry, who was always into the paranormal and UFOs and aliens, so I got kind of exposed to it through him. So this was throughout the years, starting in 2001. But I just was skeptical. I didn't really think, I thought there was maybe some sort of logical explanation for all these events. So I didn't really get that excited about some of the stuff he was reading, but I did start reading some of the articles and thought, oh, that's kind of different and interesting. But what happened with me and how this whole journey started with me, and like I said, I was skeptical. I wasn't, into any of this kind of thing. So how this started for me was in 2012. I was very worried about the planet. I was starting to question, some of the events that were going on. Some people were talking about the Mayan calendar ending, and there was a big, at least in the United States, we had a big election during that year, and so there's a lot of stuff happening. And so I was worried. I call myself a spiritual warrior, not a spiritual warrior. So I started, one night I couldn't sleep, and I just sent this massive prayer out in the universe. I asked for any extra, or higher dimensional beings, because I didn't really believe in extraterrestrials at this point, but I sent out a prayer to the angelic realm, to the ascended masters, Mother Mary, Jesus, all of the higher dimensional beings I could think of, and asking them for assistance for planet Earth. I was especially worried about the environment and about the suffering on planet Earth. I just felt like things could be better. And I just wanted to know, what was going on, what can we do to change things? And we needed some divine assistance. And at the last minute, I don't know why I did this, but I extended my prayer out to the galactic brothers and sisters. And I don't know what came over me, but I just thought to send it out to them too, just in case they existed, So, so I, 2 weeks had passed by, and nothing had happened, and I had forgotten my prayer. I just forgot about it. Went about with my life. And then one day in May, so this was May 2012, I fell asleep. And when I came to, I was in a completely different consciousness. It wasn't a dream because everything was crystal clear. It seemed like my consciousness was in a different space. And as I looked around, I started noticing, wow, this looks like a starship. It looks like a craft of some sort. And the materials were not metallic. So a lot of people tend to think that starships are made of materials that we use here on Earth, and extraterrestrials have transcended past that, where now we use now they use materials that are comprised of light and plasma and some sort of material I've never seen before, and it's very organic. I mean, the ship itself was a sentient being. I could tell because it had a consciousness. It was leading me to a space, and so I was just kind of following along. And And the other thing about it too was that the details were crystal clear, like even clearer than how we're seeing each other here on StreamYard. I mean, it was StreamYard is pretty amazing, as far as the resolution, but it was crystal clear. I mean, I could see details really sharply, and there was auras around everything, and everything had an energy, so I knew it wasn't like a typical dream, because usually dreams are kind of nebulous. So I was following along with the ship, and the ship led me to this space. It was kind of like a room, and it was a kind of a big room actually, and there was about 4 or 5 extraterrestrial beings waiting for me in this room. And I had never seen beings like that before. I mean, they had the larger heads and the larger eyes, but I could tell that they weren't gray aliens, because the features, because I've seen, pictures of gray aliens. We all have.
Right.
And I was just kind of like, these don't look like gray aliens. They look different. But I could tell they weren't Earth beings,
How tall were they?
They were not very tall, but I got the feeling that they were pulling their vibration down just in order to interact with me. And maybe they were pulling down their height also, so they wouldn't appear so imposing. Because they seemed I'm only 5 foot. I'm a little shorty. And they seemed about my height, maybe a little bit shorter. And they had larger heads. I don't know, their eyes were larger, but they had irises and pupils. So that kind of made them look a little different than some of the, depictions of gray aliens. And their skin was
Debbie, how'd you know they were aliens and not some like an interdimensional being or something like that? I mean, the thing is that if it's not a gray, and I agree with you, probably it's not.
Yeah.
How did you make a determination that these were aliens as opposed to an interdimensional being and stuff? Because we've covered all this stuff in past shows and everything. It's just we have so much information about interdimensional beings and extraterrestrials and things under the sea and everything. So, I mean, how
actually I didn't even know what they were, honestly, at the time. I was just like, okay, there's some beings here, I don't know what they are, but I found out later what they were, but at the time I was just trying to process everything. And the thing I kept thinking was, my head was, how do I communicate with them? Do they understand English? Can I talk to them? And even as I was formulating the questions in my head, they were answering my questions telepathically. Yeah.
All right. Now, the question I have for you, you were a skeptic, right? In the beginning?
I was skeptical, yeah.
You were skeptical. What'd you do before you were a health inspector?
I spent a few years working in the IT field. So I was.
You have a military bearing about you. Were you in the military at all?
Yeah, I was in the military, yes.
Yeah, I thought so.
Before that, I was in the military. Yeah.
What'd you do in the military?
I was a hospital corpsman in the U.S. Navy.
Yeah. Thank you for your service, Debbie.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's so interesting. You're connected to the Navy, and I'll tell you why later.
Yeah, no, it's kind of cool, but a lot of people. I mean, they look at me now, and they could, and I tell them, "Oh yeah, I'm a Navy veteran," and they're just like, "What?"
That's awesome.
No. But so. I want to get to the listeners to be able to understand you went from skeptic, because that's a very important thing. How you went from being a skeptic, like I could care less, to all of a sudden start praying for the planet. I think everybody should be praying for the planet, especially now, because things are getting a little crazy. Around
for the universe.
Planet. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre world here right now.
Right, but it's an interesting story for someone who's a skeptic, who's working as a health inspector, going about her day job, then all of a sudden worried about the planet, and then going to actually having an out-of-body experience. Now, did you have any training, or did you become spiritual in this time? So let's take you back to the point where you started as a skeptic and started getting spiritual.
Okay. I think my spiritual journey actually probably started even before I had my extraterrestrial experience. I was talking about this in another show last night, but my father unfortunately committed suicide in 2007.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So, and it was very sudden. It was very unexpected, and he did it in a really violent kind of way. And I think that started me asking questions. Like I started doing just my own research. And at the time, I was maybe a little bit more leaning on the conspiracy side of things, so it's kind of looking at and my husband follows a lot of conspiracy theories and stuff like that. My current husband. So
what did you think it was at that point, Debbie?
As far as what my
conspiracy? I mean, you said you were following some certain conspiracy, or your husband was following
mostly about the government, like maybe things were not as they seem on the surface.
Because conspiracy theories become conspiracy facts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I am asking that question.
Yeah, no, totally. No, I'm right there with you. I'm following along, but so I started asking questions, and around this same, I think in 2009. I decided to become of service. So I had, and I know it's going to sound crazy. It's a crazy story, but
there's nothing crazy on this.
Yeah, there's nothing. This is going to sound crazy, but in 2009, I decided that I wanted to become part of an animal-assisted therapy team. And I had a cat who was an amazing cat. I think I kind of consider her my spiritual teacher, but she and I trained as an animal-assisted therapy team. And so we went through training through the American Humane Association in Denver. And she got certified as a therapy animal. And she was one of very few cats in Colorado that was a therapy cat.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and she was a hairless sphinx, which kind of made her unusual. Kind of alien looking,
Yes.
Right. So she and I did volunteer work with various agencies throughout the Front Range of the Denver and Colorado Springs area for 6 years. And I actually consider that to be my preliminary spiritual journey towards my extraterrestrial experience. So I don't think the extraterrestrials would have pulled me up on board their ship if I wasn't already doing this work.
Okay.
Yeah. So my feeling is they want to really see that, we're walking the talk, you know what I'm saying? That we're,
right.
Walk the walk and talk the talk. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Piglet, my cat, and I, her name was Piglet. Cute name, but it kind of fit her. She and I did work with the American Red Cross. We did work with the Pikes Peak Library District with various nursing homes and assisted living homes. We visited hospitals, and we also worked at Fort Carson, which is an Army base in Colorado Springs. We did work with the Wounded Warriors and the Fallen Heroes families programs for 6 years. I mean,
that is so commendable, Debbie, and thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, I was blessed to have such an amazing, I guess, cat teacher, but I kind of consider that the preliminary to my experience. Like if I hadn't have gone through that, I probably wouldn't have said my prayer, and then I probably wouldn't have had that experience. I don't know if that makes sense, but
it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So there was an evolution between me being a skeptic, and Chris, I'm glad you asked that question because it gave me an opportunity to explain that there is a process. It doesn't just kind of happen. It's we have to be sometimes schooled. Sometimes in very difficult ways. And I found out later, through my experiences, what happened with my father, but and maybe that was part of a soul contract, but I think all of that kind of one thing just led to another, which led to my extraterrestrial contact experiences.
Right.
Well, Debbie, I'm really sorry to hear about your father, and that's really traumatic to go through. I can't even imagine that at all. But, it makes complete sense to me, because there's this thing, and there's been books written about it by several different PhDs about this, this connection between disassociating trauma and being connected into what you're connected to, the Akashic records, the Galactic Federation, these spiritual beings. And that really, the fact that you led off with that trauma and had to deal with that and go through that. And then, you went into service, and that it just makes complete sense to me. And I just wanted, to share that. I don't know if you probably obviously know that, being you have access to the records, but I see that over and over again, that when we disassociate and go through trauma or near-death experiences as well, that is a
that's usually the case. And there's actually a lot of correlations between somebody having a near-death experience and have somebody having an ET contact experience.
Right.
Yeah, there's actually, I think, a lot of similarities between those two experiences.
Yeah. Hey, Debbie, I have a question for you. You talked a little bit about telepathy, and I've been very curious about that, and all these experiences that people have all over the world. They're being spoken to in their own language through telepathy, and it's do all these, whether they're interdimensional beings or aliens or whatever they are, do you have any insight on telepathy? Is it just the intent of the message that comes through in a way that we can understand it? Or how is that working with us? How does that happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always kind of wondered about that too, because I remember when I was on board the ship, I kept thinking, like, do they understand me? Do I speak do they speak English? Can I speak their language? And as I was asking these questions in my head, even before I finished the question in my head, they were responding. And I think it's more the intent. It's like, I think telepathy transcends language, honestly. So whatever intent they're sending to me, I was able to understand, even though maybe I don't speak Arcturian or, whatever it is that they speak. But, and I noticed that a lot of the messages they were giving me was more imagery. So sometimes it wasn't necessarily words, sometimes it was more like a vision or an image. But it was interesting. I was able to understand exactly what their intent was.
Like a knowing, kind of?
Yeah,
you
like
just
a knowing.
know?
Yeah, like
interesting.
But sometimes they would say things like, so I found out, because I asked, questions in my head, like, where am I? Who are you? What is this? And they responded and told me that they were Arcturians from the Bodas constellation, and they were from a star called Arcturus. And they had me in some sort of it was like a holographic sphere of some sort. It was really kind of like a dome or a sphere. And as they were explaining things to me, they would illustrate things in this dome or sphere that it was kind of like a hologram, but it felt really real. It was like technology. It was beyond, comprehension, or explanation. But they were showing me where their star system was located, the planets that were revolving around that star, and it was pretty freaking amazing. I was just like, wow. It's like, yeah. And they were illustrating other concepts through this holographic dome that was within this room that they called the orientation room. I was asking them one question after another. I was there for a while.
What were the questions, Debbie?
Mostly about what was going on frickin' planet Earth. Like, what the heck is going on? Almost
they give you an answer?
What WTF, but I'm not going to say that for show. But I was like, what the heck is going on planet Earth? What is this? And
did they give you an answer?
Yeah, they did. they said that it was part of some sort of simulated reality that we all chose to be a part of, and that the 3D was an
I don't remember
artificial.
anybody asking me.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like some sort of artificial reality, and that we were all kind of playing a role in this reality, and they kept telling me that everything in the 3D is an illusion, and that, you know, there was certain. They also told me a little bit about the history of Earth, that there were certain powers to be that had taken over, and, you know, was trying. So there was this, you know, battle between light and dark, and it seems like, you know, the dark has the upper hand, but actually they don't, because everything is under control. And they explained to me that religion, because I had a lot of questions about religion, because I was raised from Catholic.
Same here.
And so I was just like, what the heck is going on with religion? And they explained to me that it was a man-made construct, that because I asked them, what religion do you follow? And they said, we don't follow a religion. We have a direct connection with source. And I was like, wow, that is.
Wait a minute. You said source?
Source, yeah.
What's source?
I guess God, or the divine intelligence, or.
Did they explain what source was? Did they give you an idea? Was it a concept? Was it a person? Was it a
It wasn't a
spiritual
person.
thing?
It was more like a energy, or like divine intelligence. That was the way that was the takeaway I took.
Right. But did they explain what this source was? Or was it all knowing, all being throughout the entire universe?
Yeah, just kind of this big, massive being, or consciousness. I guess more of a like love consciousness, but not so much like a physical being, but more like what we would call, because I kept asking, you know, like, because I've never heard the term source before, so I was like,
No, I never buy.
yeah, you know, so
Yeah.
I was just like, what do you mean by source? And they kept saying it's what you call God, you know, so
Whatever it is for each of us.
Right. Debbie, we have about, less than 5 minutes left before our break here, but you touched on that planet Earth is a construct and almost like a game, right?
Yeah.
And that made me instantly think of the power to manifest our realities. You know, did you get any information on our abilities and the power of our own heart and mind to manifest and change our realities?
Yes, they went
On
into
Earth.
that during my time there, because they kept telling me that none of us are victims, that we've all chosen to be here, and that, you know, we came in through a veil of forgetfulness to kind of forget and be as separated from, I guess, God or source as possible, so that we can work towards reconnecting with our divinity. And part of that process,
the mission? I mean, that's part of the mission then, is to
yeah, totally, yeah.
Okay.
And part of that was me, I guess, understanding that I wasn't a victim, you know, because I always felt like, you know, gosh, you know, I mean, I had kind of a rough childhood and a rough, you know, I would say my first 50 years kind of sucked on planet Earth.
You and me both.
Like,
I can relate to that.
You know, because this event happened like a couple of months before my 50th birthday, and so, you know, they kept telling me that, you know, I had the power to create whatever I wanted to create, and at the time I didn't quite understand it. You know, I was just trying to I was still trying to wrap my mind about what do they mean by illusion. I mean, everything seems so real. You know, I'm touching. Everything I touch, you know, feels solid. It feels like a real thing. And now I think I have more of a better understanding of what they're, you know, because when you're in the higher dimensions, I don't know if it was fifth dimension I was in. I really don't know what dimension I was in, you know, during that experience, but it's like a hyper reality. Everything is so real. And then when you go back to the 3D, everything just feels kind of like more faded out, or doesn't feel.
It's interesting you bring that up, because for 3 years, I did a lot of research and wrote a book about Dr. Leo Sprinkle, who is a psychologist out of Laramie, Wyoming, and he worked with contactees and abductees for 4 decades. And there, so many people wrote about this this hyper real dream state that it warranted its own chapter. It was called Dreams or Memories because people describe it, Debbie, just like you describe it.
Yeah,
more than anything. And again, a minute and a half. Did you, before your experience, or did you after, lucid dream and interact with your dreams? Was that part of the process for you?
I had a few lucid dreams, probably, maybe more so in childhood than I did in adulthood, because you kind of just learn to disconnect, from things in adulthood. But yeah, I would say I had some lucid dreams and maybe even some prophetic dreams, So, but it's just like anything else. You're trying to fit into the 3D matrix, and you forget your abilities, or you don't remember your dreams anymore. So so I wasn't really tuned into that, but this experience was really real. I mean, I remember it today like it happened yesterday. It was so real.
Wow.
Yeah. So right before we get to break, if Tara, if you can bring up her website page real quick. Before we go to break, I want to encourage people, even during break, to go check out DebbieSolaris.com. She offers, if you bring up that page, her website page, Debbie offers so many great, the Akashic clearings, Akashic readings, intuitive readings, starseed origin readings, and trainings. Which one is your most popular, Debbie, that you do?
I would say the Akashic readings.
Akashic readings,
super popular. Yeah, people. But the Akashic clearings are becoming more popular too, because I think people are realizing that they have stuff to clear out.
Right. And when we come back on the other side of the break, I kind of want to go through those and tell the people, what they're all about. So we will see you on the other side of the break.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
MUFON is the voice of thousands of like-minded people who want to see change. We speak up against UFO secrecy. We engage governments and agencies around the world on the topic. We share information with the public through our journal, website, newsletters, social media, and even our own TV channel. When you join MUFON, you add your voice to the cause. Few things are more important in our time than understanding the UFO question. Join MUFON. Find your friends.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a feel the difference money back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network.
We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
All right, we are back with Debbie. So let's talk about what you offer first of all. And we kind of mentioned, the popular Akashic clearings, what that entails. If we could kind of talk about each one of those, and then I kind of want to get into your process on how you receive this information and how you go about. Like, do you journal it? Do you download it? And another question, I'm going to throw a bunch of questions on.
Okay.
Did you, you mentioned that you kind of have visions perhaps of the future, maybe some psychic ability. Did you have that before your encounter or your interaction, and that came after? Because that's also
no, it came after. Yeah. Totally came.
All right, so that's a lot I threw at you. So
yeah. What do you want me to answer first?
What the service, like the Akashic readings, and what that entails. Yeah.
So I'm an Akashic Records reader, but I think my process is maybe different than maybe the what most Akashic readers focus on Earth past lives. And I'm one of the few that actually goes beyond the Earth records. So I go into
Debbie, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but could you explain what an Akashic reading is first?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, let's that sounds like a good segue. So the Akashic records are the energetic records of the universe. So it exists in the higher dimensional planes, and it's a record of everything that's ever happened in the universe, with any type of being. So it's not just limited to Earth people. It's the records of anything that's out there, including animals, plants, anything that is kind of a sentient being. And an Akashic Records reader or an Akashic Records reading is a reading where you're accessing information from the Akashic Records. And so what I was saying before about, some readers are just into looking at the Earth records, but nowadays we have access to all of the records. So all of us can access the galactic records. Cool. And so when I do an Akashic Records reading, I'm actually, when I'm working with my client, I'm looking at their soul inception. So I'm going like back in millennia, like millions and millions of years ago.
Wow. So how do you have access to these records? I mean, if you're doing a reading on somebody, how do you have access to these records?
Usually I do an energetic connection. So I do what's called the Pillar of Light exercise, where I'm imagining myself in a pillar of light, connecting with planet Earth, also connecting with the higher dimensional realms. And then I do, if I'm working with a client, I'll do what's called a divine heart triangle. So I'm connecting with their heart chakra, connecting with the higher realms. That's called a divine heart triangle. Then I do a little space clearing, and then I do the pathway prayer process. I use Linda Howe's pathway prayer. It works great. So I like it. I use it. But
that brings me a good question. Do many of us come from different origins, different planets originally? Do we spend time on many different planets, or do we stay connected to one particular planet? And do our family groups, like our children or our mothers, do we all come from the same place, or do we come from different places?
Well, I think it depends on the individual person I'm working with, but yeah, many of us are multidimensional souls. We've had experiences in many different star systems. So when I do a reading, I'm basically just focusing on maybe a handful of systems that have had the most influence on their soul journey. So because we can spend hours just going through each incarnation, but I try to look at maybe the major systems that they've spent the most time in or have had the most influence on them. But
are there new souls that are born onto planet Earth that have not?
Oh yeah.
And how can we tell these individuals?
I get some what I call third wave. I'm a big Dolores Cannon fan, and I love her book, The 3 Waves of Volunteers in New Earth, which talks about the generations of star souls that have incarnated on Earth since World War II. So I get a fair number of people that were born in the 1990s and beyond that are actually have never been on planet Earth. This is their first time.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So the question, I think this is fascinating, but I got to ask you. So if I could be an old soul, I came from another planet before.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have said that we're not always a living being. We could be a tree before, or a piece of blade of grass.
Mm-hmm.
Do you subscribe to that theory?
Yeah, sometimes I see that. Yeah, sometimes, and sometimes we don't incarnate as humanoid. Sometimes we might be incarnating as non-humanoid being. So sometimes I see people that incarnate as animals, like maybe they were a dolphin in the Sirius A system, or so sometimes I'll share that, I'll see that in the records, and I'll share that with my clients, and they always kind of connect with it. They're always like, oh yeah, that's why I feel like my dolphins are my family, or
Tara, you have that for sure.
Yeah,
she loves animals.
Probably had lives in Sirius or in Taka and in the Orion system. Who knows?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, so we get into the real nitty gritty of not just incarnations, but also alternate dimensional experiences. So.
Does everybody have that?
Souls, so I kind of take a person on like a 360-degree journey of their soul evolution.
Cool.
And a lot of times I can relate, bring in experiences they've had in the past and how that is affecting them today. And then also maybe future probabilities. So what are they going to be? What's their mission? What are they going to be doing in the future? And it's just an amazing reading. Not because I do it, but because their higher self is also involved in helping them to awaken to who they truly are. And so obviously these readings have become very popular, which is why I can't hardly get anybody on my calendar anymore. But
I'm sure you help so many people with that, because I think, working through that and knowing what your mission is in your purpose, I mean, that's so healing for so many people to kind of,
people said the readings are moment. Yeah, people say the readings are life changing. That
I can imagine
transforms their lives.
Yeah.
And I didn't have these abilities before I had my extraterrestrial contact. That was one of the questions you asked, but I didn't have any of these abilities. I was just an ordinary human. And then after I had my extraterrestrial contact experiences, I actually had 2. I had one also in December 2012, same ship, different beings, though they were more Pleiadian beings, but I had these experiences, and after I noticed my extrasensory perception just expanded. I mean, it was just like I went from being totally not connected with anything to having interdimensional traveling experiences, astro travels, being able to see UFOs. I mean, telepathically communicating with UFOs. Having encounters with Pleiadians. I mean, it was just crazy stuff. And
how does this?
So, have you ever had anything downloaded or any knowledge that has been scary for you, or that you have seen in other people? How do you handle that if that happens?
Actually, initially, I noticed one of the experiences I was having after I had my ET contact experiences was that I was having massive downloads of information. Just like I would go to sleep and the next day I would know all this stuff. Like I was having visions of galactic wars and galactic history and things that all of a sudden I knew all the star systems. I never studied astronomy in my life, and I knew all of these different star systems. And initially I thought I was going crazy. I just thought, you know what, I'm losing it. I don't know what this is. And so I started doing a lot of research, and because I just wanted to correlate and see what was going on with me. And I also started taking a lot of spiritual classes. This was, between 2012 and 2000 and maybe 15. I was taking a lot of spiritual classes, and I didn't go public with my story until December 2015. I was invited to, I think it was a paranormal group wanted me to. They had like a ET contactee panel, and they wanted me to talk about my experience. And I was really afraid because I thought I would be ridiculed. And so I resisted it. And then finally I just, they talked me into it, and I said, okay, I'll go ahead and do it. And I was amazed at how positively people responded to my story. And then I was invited to talk about galactic history at the University of Colorado in Boulder. And I was just like, wow, that's pretty impressive.
Very cool.
So then that was kind of how I got started, so, as being considered a galactic historian. I didn't give that name to myself. Other people gave me that title. So it's kind of like, oh, well, it kind of fits. I'll take it, but personally, I don't like titles, but yeah, it was like I had these massive downloads. And Katie, you were asking about scary experiences.
Yeah.
I saw some experiences that happened in the Lyra constellation that was just horrific. I mean, and like I said, I thought I was going crazy. And I wanted to see, are other people talking about this? Is this something that actually happened? And as I did research on this, I did massive research. I read a lot of books, and I was starting to see other people talking about the Lyran Draconian Wars. And it was like, oh, wow, there is something to this then. And like people like Alex Collier and Lissa Royale Holt and Dolores Cannon and, all of these folks were talking about the same things I was seeing. So it kind of validated the downloads I was receiving.
Debbie, I want to ask you a question because I think it's very important for the listeners to know this. You were a devoted Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
How does this now, with everything that you've learned, everything that you know, everything you're saying, because even one of the people in the chat has says it doesn't quite understand. They're saying, they're asking, is a rock have a soul? So how did you transform from being a Catholic to where you are now? Was there a conflict in your spiritual guidance as far as from Catholic to where you are now?
I think even when I was growing up, I had a lot of doubts about the Catholic religion, even as a teenager and a young adult. And I went to the Vatican when I was in my early 20s. And I think at that point, I just saw the opulence. And it didn't seem very spiritual to me. It felt very fake. And I actually turned away from the Catholic Church when I was in my in my early 20s. And so I was a spiritual seeker. I was just, always asking questions about, what's real, what's
right.
Yeah. So, I wouldn't say that I was a devout Catholic when I had these experiences, but yeah, I guess I don't know. I think after my experience, it was like my whole consciousness changed. I wasn't the same person when I woke up. I don't know how to. It wasn't like a walk-in or anything, but I was still the same person. But
it was a journey, though. It had to be a journey. You had to go from step 1 to step 2 and 3 to get where you were. I would have.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think
Did you have any doubts during that journey?
To another. So, and that might have been maybe orchestrated by my higher self, or maybe I had a contract with these Arcturian beings. Maybe they were just like, hey, it's time for her to wake up, do her mission. Let's bring her on board the ship. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of, but I do think there was a process to it. So I don't think if I hadn't have met my husband, if I haven't had, had my, piglet and, me, experience, I don't know if it would have led to my extraterrestrial contact.
I was going to ask you that, Debbie. Did you get to read your own Akashic records? And do you know who you're connected to and, what race of beings and who those were that you first had that initial contact with on the ship? And are those like your people, so to speak?
Oh, yeah, they were definitely my people. I didn't realize it until I kept asking them, how am I connected to you? Or, why am I here?
Right. And who were they?
These Arcturian beings that were in that space. So they told me that I was actually part of their family. And
these are the Arcturians right here.
Yeah, these are the Arcturians. These are amazing AI art that was created by my dear friend Billy Root. He's just amazing with this stuff. He's created a lot of these images for me, but
they're amazing images. Yeah. And I think you have a couple too of the Arcturian craft.
Yeah, we do.
We can talk a little bit about that.
Let's see. Is that what this is?
Their spaceship.
Yeah, that's what he created. Yeah, I don't know how he gets these downloads. I mean, they're just like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, that looks like some of the images I've seen of Arcturus. Like the crystal.
What is the climate? What is the climate there in Arcturus? On Arcturus?
Well, that's I think probably I don't know what that might be one of the planets, but it's very kind of like a simulated reality. But they do have like plant life. It's very they have a lot of pools of water. I don't know, and they have these crystal structures growing out of the water. So it's just
beautiful. Hey, Debbie, I have a question for you. You talked about starting to question things, whether it's your religion or just events on daily lives, and I think, I think a lot of us do that. We may not, be in touch with some of our senses as much as you are, but. And I'm wondering about that. You're very sensitive and you're able to pick up on a lot of things. And these are things that we all can learn from what I understand.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So, I'm not anybody special.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, society doesn't support people who are sensitive, and are we being kept from developing these other senses, these gifts? Is there something going against us, and why? Seems like there's an awakening. You talked about, the age that you're starting to awaken, and here I'm near that age, and I'm starting to question a lot of things in the reality, and it's just kind of interesting. And I'm wondering what your thought is on that.
Oh yeah, that's an awesome question, and I've had a lot of thoughts around that too. Honestly, Tara, I just feel like it's almost like we're being programmed here in the 3D 3D dimension here on Earth to not tune into our intuition, our psychic abilities. We all have psychic abilities. Like I said, I'm not anybody special. I don't.
How can we begin to break free from that programming?
I think just first recognizing that it is a program. we're being trained, not to connect. They don't want us connecting to our higher selves or our guides or our, divinity and our star families, so just having the recognition that, hey, I'm a multidimensional being. I'm a child of the universe. I have these abilities. I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to start, doing things to raise my vibration. And that in itself will help you tune into those higher abilities. It may take practice. It doesn't happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight for me, but
let's
but
talk
I
about.
do believe that there is an agenda here on Earth to keep humanity separate from our divinity, to keep us separate from our families.
Yeah.
Why, Debbie?
Because they want to keep us controlled, because the powers to be on this planet, they have a vested interest in keeping humanity enslaved and keeping us in this, limiting mind frame of, oh, I'm just a cog in the machine. I'm just here to work, pay bills, pay taxes, and go to work and then go home, watch TV, and so they keep us in this really disconnected state. And fortunately, a lot of people right now are awakening, especially since 2020. I think there's been a lot of awakening on the planet. People are starting to ask questions. They're just like all of us are. We're all asking questions. And that's why I think MUFON is such a great organization, because it gives people a platform to maybe seek out some answers,
like-minded people. Now, Debbie, is there a, just like within the Bible, there's, good and evil. Is there good and evil aliens, and do they have different agendas and motives to work with us as humans? So let's say the Dracos, let's say, from Arcturus, maybe, Chris over there's a Draco or a reptilian. I don't know. But, can you dispel some of the myths about those different ET races?
So, yes, there are extraterrestrials of the positive polarity, and then there's also those of the negative polarity. So some people say, oh yeah, all aliens are bad, or some people say all aliens are good. That's not reality. I mean, there's polarity amongst, Earth humans. There's some of us that are, positive, and some of us that are, more oriented towards negative. But yeah, I would say as far as the negatively oriented extraterrestrials, those would be like your typical reptilians from Draco or from the Orion system. So there's more of Billy's beautiful artwork, so those beings have been ubiquitous in our culture. A lot of us have known about them for a while, and they have taken control of some of the social, economic, and governmental systems. So that's been kind of ongoing for thousands of years. But as of now, I think some of their control is being dismantled, as we speak, because a lot of us are awakening and we're questioning things. And the Greys fall into that category too. And I just want to reiterate that there's even within these races, there might be some beings that are more positively oriented. So not all of them are bad, but and the same with
I was just joking with you, right, Chris?
About what?
Oh, you didn't hear it. Fine, good.
I want you to explain to me, Debbie, about the Galactic Wars.
The Galactic Wars?
Yeah.
Which ones?
Well,
the first ones?
I want to ask you, who's Lyra and Vega?
Okay. So Lyra is a constellation.
See him here.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have an image of that.
Don't have that one.
Yeah. No. So Lyra is a constellation that was considered to be the home of human consciousness. So when our galaxy was created, so and like I said, I received downloads about this. And like I said, at first I thought I was going crazy because I never heard of Lyra.
Yeah, sure.
But then I got correlations, from other other researchers out there that have also done this work, like Lissa Royale Holt, who wrote this beautiful book called The Prism of Lyra. But so Lyra was this constellation, and it was a constellation located fairly close to galactic center. So galactic center is actually, I think, in 28 degrees Sagittarius. It's considered to be between the Scorpio constellation and Sagittarius constellation. And so there's a star system called Aquila, the Eagle, which was also the location of some galactic councils. And then there was the Lyra constellation. And because of that, I understood from the records that the reason why they chose Lyra to be the beginning of physical reality in our galaxy was because it was a system that had conditions that were very favorable for physical life. So they had some really nice, really inhabitable planets. And this is even true even today. So a lot of the exoplanets that are considered to be possibly inhabitable, by humans or by, life, are actually quite a few of them are located even today in the Lyra system. So, so this was where physical life began and where two human races were developed. So Vega is actually the biggest star in the Lyra constellation. It's also known as Alpha Lyrae. And Vega used to be our North Star many, many, many millions of years ago. So at one time, Earth was actually aligned with the Vega system, not with Polaris, which is currently aligned with now.
I find it fascinating because the movie Contact with Jodie Foster mentions.
Yeah, I love that movie. Yeah. Yeah, that was really Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, let's get to the Galactic Wars. There's
the Galactic Wars. So what happened with that? So actually, Lyra had a flourishing civilization that was all unity consciousness. There was no adversity, there was no wars, there was no conflicts. Maybe minor ones here and there, but not, to the level of massive galactic wars. But they had, they lived in peace and unity consciousness and these were there was two major races that lived in this system. There was what we call the white Lyrans or the Nordic types that were more like a Caucasian looking being. And then we had the blue Vega beings that were also humanoid, but they had more of a blue skin tone. And these beings were living in the Vega system, so they lived in the planets that revolved around Vega. And they were considered to be more the mother goddess consciousness oriented type of beings, more spiritual. Whereas the white Lyrans were more physically oriented beings, but they lived in peace. They had paradise planets. And unfortunately, their system was located right next door to Draco. So go figure. You have a light system next to a really dark system. And
the Draconians are bad guys.
Yeah, they're kind of bad. Yeah, I would say they're more of the negative polarity. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So the Draconians saw Lyra and they saw how abundant their planets were. They had all these resources and, they were living in, all this abundance, and they were just like, hey, we want to conquer that system, because they were service to self beings. These were beings that had a different consciousness. They wanted to just conquer and take over things. So they saw Lyra and they just wanted to conquer that system. And through a series of events, I think they might have actually deceived the Lyrans. They contacted the Lyrans and said, hey, we're your next door neighbors. I'm just paraphrasing here, but, but hey, we're your next neighbors. We want to just reach out and maybe have a treaty. Maybe we'll share some of our technology, because we've had technologies for billions of years, with your natural resources. And for the Lyrans, who were just starting to develop their technology, that seemed like a deal too good to pass up. They were just like, hey, we can use some technology. And so they agreed to let these beings, start to visit their planets. And what I understand from the records, and that the Draconians were kind of scoping out the weak areas, which, obviously the Lyrans, they had starships, but they didn't have much in the way of weaponry because they never needed it, so.
Do you think something similar like that has happened on Earth?
Oh,
that
totally.
We made deals for technology, and we
all the time
made a deal with these
all the time. This happened with even recently, like in the 1950s. I understand the Eisenhower administration made deals with gray aliens for technology, and they wanted the weaponized ones. They wanted the ones where they can blast some other country. So they, my understanding is they had encounters with Venusians, and they had encounters with Alpha Centaurians that were willing to give them technology that might have benefited the planet, but they turned them down and decided to have a treaty with gray aliens because the gray aliens were willing to let them reverse engineer their weapons.
I can't help but wonder what these ETs, these really advanced ETs, think of human and humankind. We're pretty violent, right? Have you?
Yeah, they probably think we're They probably think we're pretty primitive.
Yeah.
In our evolution, I don't know. I kind of get the feeling that they probably look at us like little kids, they're not really evolved yet, or they're not quite ready, or they're not quite. At a spiritual level where they would understand.
Are there some out there that are helping to evolve us, to help us grow and become? Totally. Okay. Yeah. And what races of being would these be that are helpful to us?
I would say predominantly the Pleiadians. They have been.
Do we have pictures of the Pleiadians, Tara?
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
Let's see. Oh, there we go. Beautiful.
Yeah, those are some more of Billy's artwork. And those pretty much look like the Pleiadians I saw on board the starships. So they do actually look like that. I know that sounds crazy, but
wow, they like makeup. I can tell you that.
Yeah, no, they are pretty amazing. I had encounters with Pleiadians on board that starship, and I was just like in awe of how.
Debbie, why are the Pleiadians working with the Arcturians?
Yeah, they do work with the Arcturians quite a bit.
But why? What is the end goal there?
Well, they're all part of the Galactic Federation, which is a federation of there's I would say hundreds of thousands of star systems that are part of this federation, but their main goal is to maintain peace and unity throughout, and to prevent another Lyra situation from occurring. So,
do any of these, like the Pleiadians and the Arcturians, I'm taking notes. This is how fascinating.
Yeah, sure.
But do any of them live together on a same star system or planet, together? Do they co-inhabit?
I think it depends on. I think a lot of them coexist together on board starships. So I understand that there's some Galactic Federation starships even here in our solar system. So the ship I was on actually had hundreds of beings. It was a huge city-sized ship. It was humongous, and
because you do hear that with abductees and contactees, even like Travis Walton. You have the different. You have the different.
You have different races that coexist with each other on board these ships, and that was on the same on my ship. I saw different races of beings. It was mostly humanoid. There was a few that maybe looked a little different, but most of them were humanoid, but they didn't look like Earth humans. You could tell that they were, maybe from different star systems. But at the time, I was just like, wow, I'm just seeing all these different types of beings, and I didn't know, what they were, where they were from, or anything. But I saw beings that looked like those images that we just saw on the screen. They were pretty freaking amazing. And they're very tall, very, very tall.
One thing you talked about on Gaia, which I found fascinating, and I didn't want the clock to tick away before we got to this, but you kind of talked about how humans that are incarnated or have spent time or perhaps have connections to whether they're Pleiadians or Arcturians or Draco actually have personality types.
Yeah, they do. They do. Yeah.
That you can kind of tell. So maybe perhaps you meet somebody and maybe you're like inside going, oh, that's a Pleiadian or that's a. Can you talk about what some of those traits are?
Yeah, I love to. This is probably from some of the premise of my work is that I believe as we get to connect with our star lineages, our various star lineages, that it gives us an insight into ourselves, just maybe very similarly to how astrology works. How we connect with certain zodiac signs, and it gives us some insight into ourselves, or we connect with our natal charts, but some of the things I've noticed is that Lyran star seeds, so these are people that have had, their soul origination from Lyra, tend to be very connected with plant medicine. They seem to really love more of a connection with nature. These are people that are very connected with plants and animals, and they tend to be very open-hearted, maybe sometimes a little naive, especially in relationships. They tend to be a little bit naive. And people that are Pleiadian starseeds, they tend to be very creative. I do get quite a few Pleiadian starseeds who are also quite technical. So it depends on what star system within the Pleiades that they're from. So, some folks that might be more connected with Taygeta might be a little more technically oriented as opposed to people that came from Alcyon, which is another star system in the Pleiades. They might be a little bit more creative. And then people that were probably connected with the Merope system, which is another star system. The Pleiades is a big system. It's got quite a few stars. So those folks might be more oriented towards healing, so each of these star systems had their own culture, they had their own civilization, which helped to formulate, people's personalities. And so what I noticed with Pleiadians is that when they incarnate on Earth, they sometimes fall into perhaps more codependent relationships, because these are people that are very empathic. They want to help people. They see the potential in people until they start, I think, realizing, their own power, their own truth, and they start getting really tired of being in these types of relationships. They start maybe becoming more well integrated, and then they move into healthier relationships, but I do see this trend sometimes with Pleiadian star seeds. There's also health trends too, which is something I teach in one of my courses called Mastering Starseed Health, which you can access through my website.
Cool.
But there's also health trends with people of certain star lineages. For instance, one of the things I've noticed with Lyran star seeds is that sometimes they have a tendency to develop autoimmune conditions when they go under a massive amount of stress, kind of as a result of maybe some old trauma signatures from the Lyran Wars or some of the experiences that they've had. And then Pleiadian star seeds, they sometimes, I notice like a higher percentage of them seem to develop diabetes. And then sugar. Orion people, they tend to have a lot of heart conditions. They carry a lot of anger sometimes, until they start becoming more.
Orion.
There's Orion right there. So these folks tend to have heart conditions and stroke because they carry a lot of anger. Until they start working with their anger, they might struggle with these conditions. So yeah, there is a lot of, and I'm currently doing a starseed study with 2 epidemiologists out of New York, and we're actually trying to correlate certain tendencies, like health tendencies and orientations towards certain careers with star lineages. So this is a study that's currently
so cool.
Yeah.
Debbie, not to change the subject, but kind of about lineages of Earth. I'm wondering, have you read any of the records about, there's all this ancient alien theory and these structures on Earth, but yet we're only just a few thousand years old. So, what can you, or have you seen any information on what our history was here on Earth?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. I think Earth is a lot older than, way older than what our historians here on Earth would like us to believe. I think Earth was being visited by extraterrestrials probably hundreds of thousands of years ago. I mean, my understanding is that some of the Syrian groups, so some of the groups from Sirius A and B were visiting Earth. They were one of the first ones that were colonizing Earth or visiting Earth. And then some of the Andromedan groups were also visiting Earth, and, Pleiadians. And some of these extraterrestrials actually were bringing in DNA from their system. So Earth is kind of a composite of a multitude of DNA from a whole lot of different star systems. I mean, they say at least 22, but it may be even more than 22. But
are there other planets like that too?
I'm not sure. I think Earth is unique in that. If there is, I don't know about them, but I think Earth is unique in that we're the only planet that has this composite of DNA from different systems. So that's why there's so much diversity on this planet. But even Earth human genetics, we're just all a composite of different alien DNA, because these aliens were manipulating indigenous Earth human genetics like way back when, particularly the Syrians, but even we have a lot of Syrian DNA, but also we carry a lot of Pleiadian DNA.
Who did we get our sense of humor from?
Probably, I don't know, probably the Pleiadians. Pleiadians love to have fun, so I think it was probably Pleiadians.
Sounds good.
But I think Arcturians like to joke around too sometimes. So Syrians are always real serious. I don't know. They're serious Syrians, It's kind of fun. They're kind of serious. I don't know, but Pleiadians like to have fun, so I think we probably got our sense of humor from the Pleiadians.
Thank goodness.
Debbie, your history is fascinating, to say the least. But my question to you is, why you? I mean,
I've asked that question too.
Why? I mean,
I'm nobody. I mean, I'm not anybody special. I honestly don't know why me. When I did ask that question to the Arcturians on board the ship, they told me that this was part of my contract. And part of it was because they did hear my prayer. So I guess my prayer got out there on the universal grapevine or something.
Yeah, but what are you supposed to do with this information, Deb? I mean, you're a galactic historian.
Right.
You've been downloaded with such amazing information. You have a history of what's going on in the universe. If this was channeled into a way that media would pick this up or governments would pick this up, it could change things here on Earth.
Oh yeah, that's my goal, is to try to make change.
I mean, have they given you a path in order to present this information?
Well, one of the things that I kept being told was that I was going to become a public figure, that I was going to be out there speaking to the masses. And I think the first foray into this was my when I was invited to be on Gaia, so that's when I knew that, okay, my guides were telling me the truth, because I'm an introvert. I'm an INFJ. I mean, in the Myers-Briggs scale, and I'm not somebody that likes to put myself out there. That's not my normal state of being. But my understanding was that I was going to be speaking to the masses about what's really going on here on Earth. And it's kind of frightening, because you're putting yourself out there, to be ridiculed pretty much.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it was like one thing led to another. So when I was invited to speak at the University of Colorado back in 2016 or 17. I think it was 2017. And then, from there I was, speaking at, different venues throughout Colorado. And then Gaia headquarters is actually located in Colorado. It's located, just south of Boulder, so in an area called Louisville. And so, I was invited to be on various shows, just the most recent one being Deep Space, so I'm trying to get the word out there, and I'm currently working on a book, that I hope to be published next year. So,
cool.
Yeah. So, I'm just trying to get this information out there with any venue I can, because I think it's so important for us to understand who we are, where we came from, and that we're part of the greater galactic family. But that's a great question, Chris. I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. Debbie, I have a quick question. Do you have any information on what implants are and what may be going on with that? It seems like these people wouldn't need these type of tracking devices if that's what they are.
Yeah, I always kind of wondered. I think sometimes implants, this is, because I work with quite a few clients that, they have had implants in their physical body. So I think sometimes maybe some of the more benevolent beings might put implants in order to track these people, especially if maybe they're extracting DNA for, hybridization programs, that sort of thing. But the higher dimensional beings, I don't really think they need to use implants because they're so tuned into our consciousness.
But Debbie, why, if we have these higher beings and these people that are so in tune to us and everything else, why do they allow some of these abductions? Because your abduction is totally different. I've talked to hundreds of abductees. All kinds. And yours
mine is very unusual.
Right. And it's a more of a learning process. It's a lot like Jim Mann's abduction, a couple other people, where it's a learning process. Right. But a lot of abductees are very terrifying. Not all, totally. But some are very terrifying, where they're taking specimens without ever explaining anything. So I guess my question is, why do they allow that to happen? Or is that part of their process too?
I think some of the reasons might be because maybe these individuals on a higher soul level might have had contracts with these beings. I've seen that sometimes, because I work with a lot of contactees. I work with a lot of people that have had, both negative and positive extraterrestrial contact experiences, mostly negative, but sometimes they might have had a contract with these beings. Sometimes these beings.
What do you mean by a contract?
So I see that a lot too, where there's definitely a violation of free will. And there's various reasons. Sometimes they might have agreed to be part of the hybridization program, and maybe they just didn't remember, and then they get abducted and they go through this really horrifying experience, but they may have agreed to it on some higher soul level. So it depends on each of the circumstances. I did see Travis Walton talk, and I know his experience was really frightening. And I sometimes wonder, why did he have that experience? What was the purpose of it? Did he agree to it on a higher soul level?
No, because he was dead. They killed him and they brought him back to life.
Yeah.
It was a rescue mission.
So we have a question here from one of our listeners here. Eric wants to know, were we on Mars?
Yes, we were. Yes, I actually talk about that in my. I'm currently teaching a course called Galactic Akashic reading course. So I'm teaching people how to do what I do. That's part of my mission, is to help us all get tuned into our higher galactic gifts and our higher psychic gifts.
Awesome.
That's really great.
And a big part of the training is galactic historical events. And one of the things I talked about, I was actually in this week's module, which is kind of interesting. You brought that up, but thank you. Is that we did inhabit Mars. We were on Mars. probably even before we started inhabiting Earth. And there was factions from, I think, Orion that started creating bases on Mars, and another planet called Maldek, which used to be located between Jupiter and Mars, but got destroyed, and then it's now the asteroid belt. So, so those were inhabited. And then once Maldek got destroyed, I think it might have changed maybe the environment on Mars, but I think Mars used to be quite inhabitable. And then, and so these groups started migrating to Earth, you know. So, so some of the migration occurred like in Atlantis, you know. So they started inhabiting Atlantis and started influencing the Atlantean civilization. But
that's interesting.
Very cool.
Do you give these modules? Are they online? Are they in person? And how often do you do them if somebody's interested?
So this is an 8-week course that I'm currently offering now. It's not open right now. So registration was back in April, and we're now in the 4th week of the course. So, but I do plan to offer these on a yearly basis. So if you're interested in this course, please join us next year. We're going to be offering it again.
Cool.
It's pretty much self-directed. So we have videos, we have supplemental materials, we have star charts, we have it all. I mean, it's really pretty, it's an very immersive experience. And I meet with all my students on Zoom, you know, once a week, and, you know, answer questions and help them with the course process. So,
cool.
But yeah, this is currently being offered. Unfortunately, I can't take on any more students. So we had almost 100 students. I mean, it's been super popular.
Incredible.
That's awesome. Really cool. So Debbie, we're down to like 6 minutes. Unfortunately, I'd love to have you back on again.
Time goes by so fast.
So much. But I'm wondering, you know, you mentioned the hybrid program, and you mentioned that Earth is a big melting pot of all these different species of ETs that are we're incarnating here. Why? What is our why? What are we all doing here? What's the end game here?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I think part of it was a big experiment to see, like, if we take all this DNA from different systems and mix it all in one environment, what's going to come out of it, you know? And
that explains a lot.
Also is going through its own evolution, just like Orion did, just like Sirius did, you know, all these other star systems before us, you know, so they all went through a massive evolution, and we're kind of following suit right now. So we're actually working towards moving towards the 5th dimension, you know, so this is why this is such an exciting timeline that we're in right now, because we are moving towards the 5th dimension. And so it's helping us, I think, to reconnect with the higher dimensions, you know, so that Earth can eventually become part of the greater galactic family group. And eventually I'd like to see Earth become part of the Galactic Federation. Wouldn't that be cool for all travel?
That would be cool. And that was my final question here.
Yeah.
Would any of these people, ETs, intervene on our behalf?
Let's say we're getting ready to nuke each other. Yeah, they can't really violate the law of non-interference, but they do assist us from time to time. So, you know,
how do they do that? Through individuals, or how
through individuals, but also through maybe dismantling nuclear devices or taking out some of the underground reptilian bases. I've heard of that happening. They are also diminishing some of the effects of the chemtrails and some of the other toxicities that are in our environment. So maybe they're even helping us with some of the effects of the COVID vaccine. I mean, I don't know, but they are helping us in numerous kinds of ways, trying to help us get to that point. So thank God they're helping us. I mean, it's like we need some help here.
Yeah. Do you consider them a threat? You know, this UFO threat that's always talked about.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think there's been talk about, was it Project Bluebeam, that, you know, they might simulate some sort of alien invasion, or But I don't consider the extraterrestrials to be a threat. I think some of
not even the
government
draconians. Not even the draconians. You wouldn't consider?
Yeah, no, I would say definitely draconian beings, but my understanding is that the Galactic Federation has their eye on planet Earth, so they're not going to allow any sort of malevolent beings to invade our planet. So I mean that's been kind of ongoing for a while.
Yeah, that's a comforting thought and a really good way to kind of start wrapping up the show. Debbie, let's remind our listeners one more time where they can find you. DebbieSolaris.com. And if we can bring up your website page again, I mean, get on that waiting list if you have to. I know I'm going to get these Akashic readings or clearings or the.
Oh yeah, no, readings. It's definitely, they're definitely popular.
Yeah. I just want to thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're super busy and I truly appreciate you getting back to me so quickly and coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
It's been a real honor. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for being here. Thanks, Chris DePerno, for being here. Thanks, Tara. Thank you to all our listeners. And I thank you, of course, Tara, too. She's kind of taken on the role lately of producing and putting up the pictures. So thank you for that, Tara. And thank you to our producer, Bill Skywatcher and KGRA. One other thing, too, is there anywhere that, people can come see you coming up in the near future?
Let's see. I think I'm doing an event with, let's see, the CC group with, what's his name? Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm blanking out here. Sorry, guys.
You're in good company.
Not Charles Cox. Do you know Charles Cox, by the way? Do you know Charles Cox here in Denver?
No, I don't. I wish I did.
All right, I don't. Yeah, I thought maybe the CC was that.
Yeah, Simon Parks group, CC group. I'm speaking at their thing next month in Conifer. So.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're having some sort of solstice event, and Simon's Parks CC creating consciousness or something like that. But I'm sorry,
very cool.
I'm really blanking out on the names, but yeah, I'm going to be speaking at their group, and I will be at the LA Conscious Life Expo next year.
Cool.
And hopefully at other events. I was just in Sedona in March, so hopefully I'll be doing more Sedona events too.
Yeah, talk about a spiritual place. That's amazing.
Yep. Oh yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, I hope to have you back on in the near future, and thanks again for being here. And I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your week. We'll see you next Tuesday night.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.